API, also microservices and other things, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we can start with web services, microservices, and then maybe move to the latest technologies. Okay. So can you tell me the difference between REST and SOAP?
RESTful services, it is each and everything will be responded through HTTP only. Each and every request will be through responsive protocols like HTTP and HTTPS, and each and every will be communicated through HTTP web through URI only, like get, post option, delete only. And also where I can go for RESTful services, it is where I can go and get that response with the different types of simulations we can able to do, like JSON, XML, and TXT, like what format they require, and we are able to do that one. And here SOAP services, we are having to communicate with the XML serialization, whenever I need to transfer my data from source to target, we can able to transfer only from the XML serialization only. And where we can go for SOAP services, and it is able to deploy IIS, and it is communicated HTTP and HTTPS protocols, so through XML serialization also. So this is what.
Okay, so what is the difference between put and post?
One is ID put, and another one is what happened where I can go for post, and it is accepting only for the it is accepting it is able to create a resource, and it is having the ID put in nature. So when we are requesting that form body will takes, and that will be created a resource, and that gives the response over there. Where I can go for post, put, and put, it is accepting each and every subsequent request that will be updated on targets only. So in that we'll go and put only. That means if user got requested each and every requested the API, that will be take, and that resource got updated by using the timestamp only. That's what.
What is patch for? PATCH
Patch? I don't know anything anywhere from patch. I don't have knowledge on it.
Okay, so in put, like if that resource which I am going to update that is not present, then what will happen?
Come again? If
in put request, the resource which I am going to update that doesn't exist.
That resource got created, that may be affected in that node. So here where I can go and use the put and post, so we can able to use to create a resource, and also we can able to make that will be updated. And returning, where I can go and return something, then I can go for post. So I am going to if you have a filter object, that object may be get, and that will be responded to the client. So I can go and choose the post. So this is what.
Okay. So basically, how do you do state management in API?
Here, 1 minute, enabling sessions in our API level, so that we are able to maintain our information throughout each and every subsequent request in our API.
Okay. So how do you implement security for your web API?
Both, as well as I was working with both one, and also I was working with the Okta integrations to provide the security, especially built on web API.
Okay. So what does this OAuth means?
It is middleware, so I can get it authenticated and authorized. So I can get the claim object, that is bearer object, bearer token, that will be appended in our header in our each and every subsequent request. That will be captured in our API. There on action executing, there we can get the token, and we can decompress and deserialize that, and we can take the object, and we are validating that, and we can make the authenticated and authorized with that request.
So these tokens are passed into the header, right? Okay. So that are clearly visible. Like any end user can see the tokens who have knowledge of.
That is encrypted format only. That is not at all format. That is encrypted format, and we can.
That's okay. But
everything.
But everything everything is visible in header, right? Whether it's encrypted or not encrypted, whatever. So if someone can see the token and can pass the token into their request to the server, then it could be a valid request, right?
We are going to validate that on our server also. Like once we get the request and depends on that secret token, so we are going to decrypt like what way they are encrypted and what way we are decrypting all things as dependent mechanism.
Yes. So it is decrypted on whatever you are doing on servers, correct?
Here what we are main. Okay, you are saying like that there are like every 20 minutes that got changed. So 20 minutes after it got changed, like it got expired and it is generated new one. So it is generated with Okta and what, and there only you can able to.
But in that 20 minute only, if I send a valid request, okay, from another server to our server with all the header and all the things which I am passing, so it will be marked as a valid request, right?
There is one check already. We maintain one check. That check only we are going to maintain all things like when my API got run, so crossed we are maintain that course also, so that other domain cannot get it authenticated.
Okay. Good. So this web API and all things are stateless protocol, right?
Correct.
So how we can enable session for using this?
I use like we are enabling the durable. We are go and use the durable dictionaries. So in that we can make to keep our information key and value, then we can able to use it.
Okay. So what are data annotations?
Data annotations means here we are going to maintain some validations in our like what is that model level. So in that we'll go and create data annotations only. So here we are having record validators, regular expressions, range validator, compare validator, custom validator, and all things we are going to do. So in attribute level we are able to do.
Okay. So how we can apply conditional data annotation in EDA?
Conditional means got it like conditional data annotation is we go for customized data. So in that we can we can do the conditional validations like if the condition got true and I'm going to process this, and if the condition got false and I'm going to do so on. So in that we are able to custom validators.
So how we can implement this conditional data annotation, because in data annotation we can apply.
Yes, annotation in the sense it is like a attribute level. So in that we can able to maintain like attribute and what condition we are able to like that is a validation summary. So that summary will be extended. Then we are able to make that condition like we can able to do the external logic over there. So there we can get the current object, then we can validate it. Depends on that we are able to validate.
So we talk about CORS, right? So basically what is CORS?
CORS means actually if I'm having a website, if I'm having web API, then I'm going to talk my web API into separate domain. Like best example is I'm having two ports, 58786 and 4001. So like this we are having two types of we are having two types of ports. So two types of, and one of the so what happened when I need to talk my API into that particular port or something, so we are enabling the CORS and we can use that domaining also, so that we are easily communicate that domain in our APIs.
Okay.
JSON.cs, there we are enabling that config.cost enabling true. Then we can give the domains in that attribute level cost. So we can able to give the domain and comma star all things we are able to integrate it. And where we can go and like API route and all things to launch the setting.cs, there we are able to do in that domains all things we are able to do.
Okay. So in .NET Core, we need to define all the things in app-setting.js, right? Okay. So beside this thing, what all things we can define in app-setting.js?
App-setting.js, like normally application setting, like app-setting.config like this only. Application setting, like app-setting.json, we are able to set our connectivities. We are able to set our key and value pair information in the JSON format, and also we are able to set our Azure settings and all things we are able to do.
Okay. So how many JSON files are available in .NET Core by default? You create .NET Core
application settings. Yes, application setting.json dependent, like launch setting.json dependent.json like this we are having. So we are able to make to get over.
Okay. So how do you register a service in .NET Core?
Register service, please. Over here.
So service, you register services in .NET Core, right? Starting.cs.
.NET Core in that API controller base. So there is, here we don't have any API controller. Here we are having the base controller. There route prefix as well as route is an attribute. So route prefix you give the route prefix of your API endpoint, and the route is gives the endpoint definition of that endpoint. So we can able to give. And also extension.
How do we?
Hello.
How do we define the service lifetime?
I'm not getting you.
The service lifetime, like how we hello?
Yes. In .NET Core, right? Hello.
Yes.
Yes, in the .NET Core, first request will send to the program.cs, and it sends that request to the our startup.cs, and the startup.cs there it will be go and configure service and configure services, and configure service it set the configuration like it set the service or service configurations, and once that was done, go for route handlers, and there we can able to handlers in that it will be filter a request, then it once the filter request is done, it go for the authorized attribute, then we can get it authorized, then it go for the API endpoint URI. So this is what.
Okay. Any idea like what is add singleton, add transient, add scope?
Yes. There we can maintain like the service dot singleton and service dot transient and service dot scope. So these things will be able to maintain, and when default we can able to maintain that one. It is service dot transient, and each and every request will be handled by your object. So if you create new instance, it is handle your object. So this is what where I can go for service dot singleton, and I'm having the object and I'm having the request in my web API. So it will be create a single instance. Once the instance will be complete, and it is allowed to create new like a static in nature, and where I can go and use the scope. So what happened? I can maintain the session of entire scope. So once the scope will be done, it is allowed like that scope will be maintained in your user to user like this.
So what does transient mean?
Each and every request like transient like where each and every request, whenever I need to make a request from my API, so each request I need to get a responsive call. So in that I'll go and put service.transient. So each service will become, and it will create a new instance. That instance will be complete, and it will create new, it will destroy. So all things it will be different. It will be handled by the service.transient.
So it will share an instance of service per request.
Come again.
So it will create an instance of services every time I send a request?
Like normal, what happen? Normal, depending like when I can use the normal .NET Framework API. So API 2. So what happen? We can maintain the like Unity. There only we can handle this objects. So there each and every request should be create an instance that will be handle your Unity container. So the same thing will be applicable in our service.transient only.
Okay. How do you enable routing in .NET Core?
Like in .NET Core launch, like launch setting.cs, there only we can enabling like endpoint configuration we are able to do, and also we are able to decorate in our controller level route prefix and action level route.
So in startup.cs we'll be defining these things.
Come again? Conventional routing and active level routing, right?
Yes.
Conventional routing means
Yeah.
it checks in MVC what happened. It checks route collection of route collection table. Route collection, in that it shows the route like a route pattern. So there you are a pattern. So it checks that what is pattern you are taking area slash controller slash action parameters or controller slash action parameters we are able to declare. So what happens? First request will be sent to the controller, and then it the action will be written to the action parameters. So all things will be happening in the URI pattern itself only. The same thing where we go for enabling the attribute level routing. Attribute level routing means when I had an action, that action is indicated index, but I want to behave this index with the customized name of my own action name. Like that is audit information. So I can make to declare that one into the attribute level. So this is what where we can segregate that one into the customer action route.
What are tag helpers?
Which one?
Tag helpers.
I'm not getting this.
Unless you are not aware of, you are not getting the question.
I'm not aware. Tag helper you were asking me that one.
Tag, T-A-G.
Tag HTML helpers, right?
No, HTML helpers are different, tag helpers are different.
No, I don't have idea. Sorry.
So in MVC, what is the life of temp data? How long can it hold the value?
In temp data, right?
Yeah.
In a request, where we can go and use the MVC temp data in a request. So this subsequent request we cannot see that data. So in case if you want to keep that data, it means mdata.keep.
Okay. What does this keep do?
Keep and pick. There are two methods, and actually where I need to pick that each and every subsequent request I need to maintain my information in my temp data, so I can maintain to temp data pick up that object name. We are able to keep it, and when I need to keep that one means I can make when I'm going to call a repository call, there I can temp data pick up that object. We are able to call it.
Okay. So any idea what is CSRF?
Yes.
Cross-site.
Anti-plagiarism, class-originated issues, right?
Yeah, cross-site request forgery.
Yes, anti-plagiarism, right? Anti-plagiarism means like we are having anti-plagiarism is attribute level we are able to declare, and MVC5 it is inbuilt. Previously MVC4 we can able to declare it. Why? Because actually when I can make to enable that, like some unwanted, like we are having web applications, something like sometimes unexpected comes in our web page, so we close that. Once we close that means this pop-up may be cache or read our entire cookies. So these cookies may be infected to hack our data. So we can eliminate such type of issues. We can enable attribute level into anti-plagiarism.
has written web APIs in microservices?
Yes, microservices, like where I worked with microservices, got developed by using the web APIs only, but each and every service got run independently, independent in nature. That means when I had Cosmos, and like I worked with different types of APIs, Cosmos, Table, Blob, and also I worked with something SQL API, Service Bus API. So we are having different types of APIs. So all are run independently with the different codes. So we are all are will be connected to the like API management, gateway management. Then we can view, expose that one into the endpoint to the client so that they are able to exit.
Okay. So what is the advantages of using microservice-based architecture?
It is highly available and maintainable. Like best example, if I use 10 services in my application, so out of 10, one of the service needs to do some maintenance, and remaining all things are run and off. So without disturbing them, I'm going to do that maintenance by using these microservices.
So how do you deploy these microservices? So I'm just asking, like, what type of pattern architecture have you used?
I was I was working with the like Service Fabric and Service Fabric nodes we are deployed, and the center things are followed by the CQRS patterns. Like on queries, we are able to segregate and we can build that application.
Any idea what is API gateway?
Yes, API gateway management. So what happened? Multiple services are run parallelly. So we are deployed. We all are called the same gateway management. Then we can generate one endpoint. That endpoint will be given to the client. So this is one where we are using the API gateway.
Okay. So you told about CQRS pattern, right? So how does the CQRS pattern works?
Commands and what happened in command and query. So what happened when I'm going to insert, when I'm going to delete, when I'm going to update, record. So that entire things are comes under command. When I'm going to read an information, when I'm going to retrieve the information, we just pass a query and we can get the response. So such type of things we can make to segregate, both are different and we can make to available.
Any other pattern you are aware about, like for microservice communication?
API gateways is one, like all are created, all are separate APIs will be created. We can create API gateway, then there we can deploy, then we can display this endpoint. This is what.
Okay. In terms of performance, which is faster, join or subquery?
Joins or subquery? You are asking me joins or subquery, right?
Yes.
I'm preferring go for joins. So that means it is matched records. We are able to join. So I'm preferring go that. Where I can go for subqueries means maintain some condition. So that condition applicable for entire table relation. So there are chances to having the issue. So I go for joins.
Okay, so can you tell me query to get the second highest number?
Okay. Yes, actually here different ways, but I'll tell you here one small way. Like inner query, in that inner query, I'm going to make a selector, dense rank of order by over and of order by salaries DESC from EMP as row number and from EMP of row number. And what columns we are selected, it's selected from EMP where row number is equals to, then it is able to return your second highest salary from your tables.
We cannot do it by simply a subquery. Simple.
We can able to do that one also. Like subquery means simple, like I tell you this. First, subquery means what it does, select top. We are making the I'll tell you this how it is. We are making the order by DESC, and we can get the and in DESC here we can get the top two, minimum of top two, because top two salaries. Then select star from EFP where salary in for in for that like salary code for the top two salary we can able to do it.
So we can use this order by in subquery.
Why not? We can able to do that one. Or otherwise, I'll give one is quicker, faster, and quicker like select star from EFP where then select count star from EFP where even dot salary less than equal to into dot salary. Then it will give the what number you can give. The same that record will be fetched. So it is also gives good performance.
Okay. So in HTML, what is the difference between div and span?
Spam, right? Div it is yes, in div it is aggregating your screen into separate like in case if your screen having top, and each for it I'm going to make a div and that will be make a column or rows in that format. And also where I can go for span, and in the span I'm going to show like in the span of span text we can have to make the span that most of the star like a separate span of text we are able to make that will be highlighted in our HTML. So,
like are you aware of solid principles?
yes, actually in fact I single responsibilities and open and close and disclose.
Just explain me. Just explain me Lisco substitute principle.
Actually, when I'm writing something, so other developer cannot change that, and they are easily extend that. So in that, I make my method called as virtual, so that other developer can easily extend that method to extend my old method to new method. Like extract example is get auditor, and it is by ID only. And now I am having the ID with the network, auditor ID. Common network ID, so I'm going to virtualize and I can write it in the same class name. So such things will be able to make by the open for extension, close for the modifications.
No, just Lisco substitute principle. Okay, native or what is Lisco substitute principle?
Okay. Lisco substitution is nothing but inheriting my base class to child class. So that means actually a developer like what happened, they are having the dynamic for virtual concept like. Previously we are having interface, that interface having 10 members, and I'm having 4 child, and couple of child they don't want to all 10 members. So an interface thumb rule is all methods should be visible. So we can have that issue, we can eliminate that, we can go and put that one into my base class into virtual, so we can override that methods into the derivatives very easily. We can achieve the dynamic purpose like that. So this is the concept of discount inverse.
Okay. Any idea what is the difference between enumerable and iQueryable?
Yes, one is in-memory object, another one is iQueryable is system.link, and where I can go for link, and it is default of iQueryable interfaces. So in-memory we don't have any pagination, where we can go for iQueryable it is a pagination, and we have to do a lot of insert of delete operation there.
What is the difference between a single or default and first or default?
First or default means it returns the first object in the list. In case if it is having null, it cannot be handled by the first. And where we can go for first or default, it is handled the null value also, and it returns default is null. And where we go for single, it is having a list, and it is having the single value, and it is having null. It cannot be handled null value. And the singular default, it is handled the null value. Like in case if it is having the list, it is having to give the first value, and it is having null, it cannot be handled. And where we go for single, it always handles the single value only. It doesn't give any like what is that like default value.